You think you know what time it is, but the phone in your hand is constantly lying to you, and if it stopped, your world would fall apart. Your reality is corrected 86,400 times a day just so you can order a taxi. The question is, what is it being corrected from? We all live by the clock. We see time as a straight, unbreakable line, the same for everyone. It's a comforting thought, and it is completely, fundamentally wrong. We're about to present the evidence that proves the clock on your wall is the biggest illusion you live by. Let's start with the technology you use every single day. The satellites, living in the future. Every time you use your phone for directions, you're communicating with satellites living in the future. Without a constant correction for this temporal distortion, our entire global navigation system would collapse in minutes. High above us, a constellation of 31 global positioning system satellites orbits the Earth at 14,000 kilometers per hour. They are subject to the laws of a universe where time is not constant. Albert Einstein proved the river of time flows at different speeds, governed by two rules. First, speed slows time down. For the GPS satellites, this immense velocity means their internal clocks tick about 7 microseconds slower than ours every day. But that's only half the story. The second rule is that gravity warps time. Stronger gravity drags on the clock. We live deep in Earth's gravity well, where time is slowed by its mass. 20,000 kilometers up, however, gravity's grip is 4 times weaker. In this thinner gravity, the satellite's clocks speed up, ticking 45 microseconds faster than ours every day. You have a cosmic tug-of-war. Speed slows their time by 7 microseconds, while weaker gravity speeds it up by 45. The net result is that GPS satellite clocks leap ahead of us by 38 microseconds daily. It seems impossibly small. But in a system that relies on signals traveling at the speed of light, it's a world-breaking error. Think about that for a second. What real-world damage could a few millionths of a second possibly do? If uncorrected, that tiny time jump would cause your GPS to miscalculate its position by more than 10 kilometers a day. Within a week, you'd be 100 kilometers off course. Our interconnected world of navigation and communication would drift into chaos. So, engineers hardwired Einstein's physics into the system's core. The satellites constantly fight their own journey into the future, making tiny adjustments to keep their reality synced with ours. Every map you follow is a testament to the fact that time runs differently in the sky. This invisible effect is a constant battle for our technology. But if you think this is just a technological quirk, you're wrong. It's a battle that also takes place in the natural world, on a scale that turns mountains into machines for aging. The clock at the top of the world. You believe time is the same for everyone on Earth. It feels true. But this comforting thought is an illusion. There is a place on this planet where you will age faster than everyone you know. This isn't fantasy. It's the measurable reality at the summit of Mount Everest. Time is woven into the fabric of space, and this fabric can be stretched by mass. Imagine the Earth as a heavy ball on a rubber sheet, creating a deep time well in space-time. Living at sea level, we are deep inside this well, where time's flow is sluggish and slow. But what happens when you climb out? Picture a mountaineer ascending Everest. With every step, they are fighting their way out of this time well. As they climb higher, the planet's gravitational grip weakens and the pace of their personal clock quickens. By the time they stand on the summit, 8,849 meters above the sea, they are perched on the edge of this gravitational dip, where time flows more freely. The effect is subtle, but not zero. For every year a person lived on the summit, they would age roughly 16 microseconds more than someone at sea level. This isn't just a calculation. You've probably never climbed Everest, but if you've ever taken a long-haul flight, you weren't just a passenger, you were a time traveler. In 1971, scientists flew atomic clocks on airliners. When the planes landed, the clocks that flew at high altitudes, where gravity is weaker, had aged faster than those on the ground. The climber on the summit descends back into the world, having not only stood on top of it, but having lived a fraction of a moment longer than everyone below. Gravity's subtle influence bends time across the globe. But sometimes, the most jarring temporal divides aren't carved by physics, but by a simple line on a map. The islands of yesterday and tomorrow. So, physics bends time. But what about politics? You think the date on your calendar is a solid universal fact, but what if it's just a fragile agreement? In the Bering Strait sit two islands separated by less than 4 kilometers of water. You can stand on one and see the houses on the other. But you are not looking at today, you are staring into tomorrow. These are the Diomede Islands, Little Diomede in the US, and Big Diomede in Russia. They're separated by an invisible chasm more profound than any ocean, the International Date Line. This imaginary line marks where one day ends and the next begins. And in this improbable place, it splits two neighbors into 2 different days. For the Inupiat people on the American island, this is a bizarre reality. When it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning on Little Diomede, it's already 6 o'clock on Sunday morning on Big Diomede. They can look across the water and see the land where the sun of their own future has already risen. In winter, the frozen sea creates a bridge where you could literally walk from a Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning. For centuries, indigenous people traveled freely between the islands, but the line on the map became a hard border. During the Cold War, the channel was nicknamed the Ice Curtain. The border was sealed, and the residents of Big Diomede were forcibly relocated to Siberia, their homes abandoned. The island became a ghost, a military outpost in a future its former family could no longer reach. It remains a physical monument to the fact that time, for all its cosmic power, can be commanded by human will. It's a place where you can watch the fireworks on New Year's Day, then cross the water and celebrate New Year's Eve all over again. This stark division of time is something you can measure, but there are other places where the walls between moments are said to be far thinner, where people claim to have stumbled, walking from the present day directly into the past. The street where the 1950s never left. You probably think the past is gone, locked away safely in history books. But what if it isn't? In the heart of modern Liverpool is a street where the past is not always past. People turn a corner onto Bold Street and find themselves walking not in this century, but in the last. This isn't a ghost story. It's a collection of chillingly consistent accounts of a place where time itself seems to fold. The reports describe a similar phenomenon. The vibrant street of today suddenly gives way to a quieter, dated version of itself. The modern traffic noise fades, and the world bleeds into a sepia tone. One of the most compelling accounts comes from an off-duty police officer in 1996. He noticed a vintage van chug past, then realized all the cars were old models. The people around him were dressed in hats and coats from the 1950s. The storefronts had changed. Now stop. Imagine this. You're a cop. Your job is based on observable facts, and the facts in front of you say you've just walked into the past. A modern store was gone. In its place stood a bookshop with a sign he'd never seen. Cripps. He was confused, but it felt real. He saw a bewildered young woman in modern clothes walk out of the bookshop. Their eyes met, and as she passed him, the world snapped back. A wall of sound returned as modern cars sped by, and the Cripps bookshop was once again a boutique. He was not alone. Another woman reported entering a shop to find prices from a bygone era. When she tried to pay, the shopkeepers looked at her modern money with suspicion. Panicked, she fled back into her own time. The details in these stories often rhyme. The quiet, the vintage cars, and the phantom corner shop named Cripps, a business proven to have existed there decades earlier. Is it a wrinkle in space-time or a psychic echo etched into the very stones? The mystery is that there is no answer. These fleeting, ghostly echoes are a random glitch in our reality. But what if a difference in time wasn't a glitch? What if an entire nation decided to live, officially, 7 years behind the rest of the world? The nation 7 years in the past. Okay, so the past can bleed through, but the current year on your phone, that has to be a solid fact, right? Except it isn't. There is an entire nation of more than 120 million people where the year is not 2025, but 2017. Welcome to Ethiopia, a country that lives on its own ancient clock. 7 years and 8 months behind almost everyone else. This is not the result of isolation, but a deliberate adherence to a different story of time, rooted in an ancient calculation. While most of the world follows the Gregorian calendar, Ethiopia's calendar is based on a different determination of the birth of Christ. The result is a parallel timeline, a place where you can physically travel back to a year you've already lived. Their calendar is as unique as its year. The Ethiopian year has 13 months, the first 12 have exactly 30 days, and a final leap month of 5 or 6 days syncs the calendar with the Sunday. Their New Year's Day, Enkutatsh, is on what we know as September 11th. It is a completely different rhythm for life, a cultural heartbeat that has remained steady for centuries. To visit Ethiopia is to experience a unique form of time travel. The moment you step off a plane in Addis Ababa, the date on your phone becomes an artifact from the future. The local newspapers, government documents, even the expiration date on milk, all bear a date from 7 years in the past. It's a profound experience, a constant reminder that our perception of time is a shared agreement, not a universal law. Its people navigate this dual reality with ease, using the Gregorian calendar for international business while living their cultural lives according to their own clock. Ethiopia's calendar is a powerful act of preserving a timeline from the past. But what if humanity's goal isn't to preserve a different version of time, but to defeat it entirely? What if we built a place to make time stand still? The vault at the end of time. So time can be relative and political, but it always moves forward. Decay is inevitable. That's a law you can't escape. Or can you? Deep inside a frozen mountain near the North Pole lies a vault. It's not designed to protect gold, but something far more valuable: the future of humanity. This is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, a place built to make time stand still. From the desolate Arctic landscape, a single concrete wedge emerges from the mountainside, glowing with a futuristic light. It is a doorway to a modern-day Noah's Ark, a backup hard drive for civilization. Inside this fortress, protected by rock and permafrost, lie the seeds of the world. Duplicates of seed collections from nearly every country are sent here for safekeeping against war, disaster, and the slow erasure of biodiversity. To ensure their survival, the vault is designed to stop the clock. The facility is buried 120 meters inside the mountain, where the permafrost provides natural cooling. Deep inside, 3 vault rooms are chilled even further to a frigid -18 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, the seed's metabolic processes slow to a near-complete halt. They are in suspended animation, their biological clocks frozen. For a seed sealed in this Arctic tomb, a millennium could pass like a single moment. The vault is one of humanity's most powerful statements about time. It is an act of profound humility, an acknowledgement that our civilizations are fragile. But it is also an act of incredible hope. It is a message in a bottle thrown into the ocean of the future, a promise that we will give our descendants the tools to rebuild no matter what. With over 1.2 million unique seed samples secured, it is the most diverse library of life on the planet, a silent, sleeping army waiting for a wake-up call that everyone hopes will never come. This frozen sanctuary is a monument to human control, a place where the laws of decay are held at bay. But the Earth has its own mysterious places, where the laws of physics themselves seem to bend, and time feels unnervingly out of joint. The Silent Zone. At least we can agree on the laws of physics. They are constant and predictable. But what if there are places on Earth where those laws are merely suggestions? There is a patch of desert in northern Mexico where the modern world seems to die. Radios crackle into static, compasses spin uselessly, and a profound quiet descends. This is the Mapimi Silent Zone, a wilderness where unexplained forces seem to warp physics and visitors claim time becomes untethered. Its modern legend was born in 1970. A test rocket, an Athena missile launched from Utah, veered thousands of kilometers off course. It flew south and crashed inexplicably in the dead center of this remote desert. The secretive U.S. Air Force recovery operation brought a global spotlight to the region, and what was found only deepened the mystery. The area is a hotbed of magnetic anomalies, with high concentrations of magnetite ore that can suppress radio waves. It is also a graveyard for meteorites. These scientific curiosities, however, are just the beginning. Ranchers and visitors tell stranger tales. They speak of silent lights that float through the night sky, sometimes following cars. They report encounters with tall, fair-haired beings who ask only for water, then vanish. But the most unsettling stories are about distortions in time. People who spend what feels like an hour there emerge to find that 3 or 4 hours have inexplicably vanished from their day. Others describe a disorienting feeling of being out of sync, as if the sun is not where it should be, and the normal passage of moments has become warped. Skeptics argue the legends are just stories built on natural magnetic interference. But the sheer density of inexplicable reports, from military accidents to personal accounts of lost time, has created an enduring mythos. The zone of silence remains an enigma. It's a place where the rules feel like mere suggestions. But what if the strangest time distortions weren't hidden in some remote desert, but were happening all around us, in a way so precise it could be measured by a clock? The experiment that proved time travel is real. All right, we have strange places and stories. But where's the hard proof that can't be dismissed as legend? In October 1971, 2 physicists flew around the world, twice. Their luggage held 4 atomic clocks, the most accurate timekeeping devices ever created. When they landed, the clocks no longer agreed, with a master clock left behind. Humanity had just performed its first successful, measurable act of time travel. The Haffley-Keating experiment was designed to test Einstein's theory of relativity in the real world. He predicted time was a fluid river, stretched by gravity and squeezed by speed. A fast-moving clock should tick slower. A clock in weaker gravity should tick faster. For decades, this was just theory. This experiment was meant to prove it. First, they flew eastward, with the Earth's rotation. Their combined velocity was immense. According to special relativity, this speed should cause their clocks to slow down. Then, they flew westward, against the planet's rotation. Their relative speed was much lower. On this trip, the time-slowing effect of speed was reduced, while the time-speeding effect of high altitude remained. Theory predicted the opposite would happen. The clocks would speed up, aging faster than the one on the ground. After circling the globe, they returned to the US Naval Observatory to compare their clocks. The results were a stunning vindication of Einstein's work. The clocks that flew eastward had lost 59 nanoseconds. They were younger. The clocks that flew westward had gained 273 nanoseconds. They had jumped, measurably, into the future. The airplane cabin had become a time machine. The experiment proved that any person who has ever boarded a plane has engaged in time travel. This experiment ripped time travel from science fiction and placed it firmly into the world of fact. But the most famous stories of time travel don't involve atomic clocks. They are stories of accident, confusion, and the unnerving feeling of seeing a ghost from a time that's no longer supposed to exist. The ghosts of the Petit Trianon. So we have scientific proof that time is not constant. But science is predictable. It doesn't account for the impossible. In the summer of 1901, 2 respected British academics took a trip to the Palace of Versailles. They took a wrong turn and walked out of their own time, finding themselves in a living memory from the French Revolution. The witnesses, Charlotte Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, were not sensationalists, but respected Oxford scholars. But on that August afternoon, as they got lost in the gardens, the world around them changed. A profound stillness fell. The landscape seemed to lose its depth, becoming flat and lifeless like a tapestry. They felt a sense of dread, as if walking into a dream. They soon began to encounter people in clothing over a century out of date. Near a small kiosk, a sinister-looking man with a pockmarked face turned to look at them, his expression so menacing it chilled them. The path led them deeper into this quiet, melancholic memory. Finally, near the Petit Trianon, they saw the central figure, a lady sitting on the grass, sketching. She wore a light summer dress and a wide-brimmed hat. Moberly and Jourdain were later convinced they were looking at Queen Marie Antoinette in the final peaceful hours before her world would be shattered. The experience lasted only a few minutes. It was only weeks later, comparing notes, that they realized they had shared the same vision. For the next decade, they researched the history of Versailles. They discovered maps from 1789 showed a bridge and a kiosk exactly where they had seen them, though both had long since been demolished. Their research suggested they had stumbled into a moment from August of 1789, just before the Parisian mob marched on the palace. They came to believe they had not seen ghosts, but had accidentally stepped into a memory held by the place itself. This incident remains one of history's greatest paranormal puzzles. But what if the greatest journey through time wasn't into the past, but a one-way ticket to a future so distant it represents the absolute edge of reality itself? The edge of forever. We've explored these strange pockets on Earth where time bends, but the ultimate place where time runs differently isn't a place on a map. It is a speed. It is the universe's absolute limit, the speed of light, and to travel there is to take a one-way journey to the end of time itself. Imagine an astronaut leaves Earth on a starship, capable of accelerating to 99.9% of the speed of light. Her twin brother stays behind. Her mission is a round trip to our nearest star, Proxima Centauri, just over 4 light-years away. From her perspective, the journey will take a few years. For her brother on Earth, it will be a lifetime. As her ship accelerates, the laws of relativity take hold. The faster she moves through space, the slower she moves through time. For every year that passes for her in her ship, decades pass on Earth. For every night she sleeps, her brother celebrates another birthday. The most profound change is the one she cannot feel, the relentless forward march of time back home, a march she is no longer a part of. She completes her mission and returns, having aged, by her own clock, perhaps 10 years. She anticipates a reunion with a world only a decade older, but the planet that greets her is not the one she remembers. The coastlines have shifted. The cities glow with a technology she cannot comprehend. When she lands, she finds 800 years have passed. Her twin brother is a figure from ancient history. The world she was born into is gone, preserved only in digital archives. She has become a ghost from the past, arriving in a future she was never meant to see. This is not science fiction. It is the literal consequence of physics. She traded her place in the normal flow of time for a journey across space, and in doing so, was left behind by the rest of humanity. So, the clock on your wall, the date on your phone, they aren't measuring a universal truth. They're measuring a local agreement, a tiny bubble of synchronized reality in a cosmos where time bends, breaks, and forgets its own rules. Which leaves one final, uncomfortable question. If your entire perception of reality is based on a clock that is fundamentally wrong, what else are you wrong about?